Hey, what's up all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Chapple Show. So what's on the docket today? We're going to talk about a stock that's up like 45% today. The market hasn't even closed yet. We're going to talk about why the stock market's actually really bad today. A little bit about tax reform, Mark Cuban, Facebook, Uber, Snapchat. A lot of stuff we're going to cover today and some investing tips. But let's just talk. I just want to get this out of the way first before we talk about the stock that's up 45%. And so the stock market's had a really bad day. It's dropped 120 points. I think it's actually dropped about 200 points as of this current second, maybe a little bit more. And why is this? It's because the proposed corporate tax cuts in the new tax reform, it's been proposed to delay those cuts until 2019. And so the Senate kind of sent out a bunch of changes that they want to see in this tax reform, which is supposed to be pro-business. And so the things that they changed here, let's see, they don't want to lower the pass-through rate for businesses here. They want to maintain medical expense deductions. They don't want to repeal the estate tax. Oh yeah, so they also want to keep 7 tax brackets instead of the proposed 3. So there's a few big changes that they want in there, and obviously delaying the corporate tax cuts. Now, the tax cuts are going to be the exact same percentage, going down from 35% to 20%, but companies are going to have to wait an entire year, and that's why the stock market reacted in a negative way today. They do not like these proposed changes from the Senate here. So that's kind of why the markets are down today. By the way, I want to try and keep this video a little bit shorter today because the last two have been like almost an hour long. But let's move on to the stock. That's up 45%, and that is Roku. Roku, if you do not know what that is, I had one at my parents' house. And it's pretty much like something you hook up to your TV, and you essentially get a bunch of apps where you get to stream content. So with the Roku player, you get Netflix on there, YouTube. I'm sure you get a bunch of other apps that I haven't looked at, but I used it for YouTube and Netflix back in the day, many years ago. HBO's on there, HBO Now, I don't know, Crackle, Sling, apparently. I don't know what those are. But they had a really good day. They're up 48% as of this current second, and that is because their revenue was up 40% this quarter. 40%. Now, what's really, really funny, I still like seeing this, is that the revenue was way up, but they still had a loss of 10 cents a share. So they're still not profitable. They announced $124 million in revenue. That's actually not a ton. For a company that's actually, no, that's a tech company valuation, right? They're valued at about $3 billion right now with $124 million revenue this quarter. So that would make it what? about $500 million revenue. Oh yeah, so that's about right. Okay. But yeah, that's the stock that's way up today, 48.7%. That's what they're up right now. What do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of Roku? This is one of those companies, I think I talked about them a few months ago when they were going to IPO. I think that it was in the summer sometime, but I guess, no, I remember talking about them when they were announcing the IPO, not when they actually IPO'd. But yeah, so in the IPO'd September 28th, they IPO'd initially at $14, then it went to $23. It's currently sitting at $28, but the stock dropped to $18.84 as of yesterday and is currently sitting at $28. So pretty big gain. This is a very surprising one. I don't think that this is obviously sustainable. Well, it'll probably see some sort of a rebound in the next couple days. But cool. It's really cool results. I mean, revenue is up 40%. The stock went up 48%. So it somewhat makes sense. And what do you guys think of Roku? Would you buy them as a stock? My question whenever I think of a tech company, one of the things I like to ask myself is, do I think that this technology is something that's going to be used 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? So I think Roku is a very good replacement for cable. It's a very good replacement for cable. However, I don't like it compared to the technology that goes on, you know, your computer or your phone or your iPad, because I think that people are just kind of buying TVs less and less. I mean, I used to think about this. Think about how often, if you're a millennial, how often you used to watch TV as a kid or use your TV as a kid or hook up your video games to your TV as a kid. And now think about how much time you spend on the computer or your phone versus on the TV. Is it even close? For a lot of millennials, I mean, I can guarantee you that computer time and phone time has cut down TV time. So I think Roku's a good replacement for cable at this current second. It'll probably be a good replacement for the next 2 years, but it's probably not going to outpace computers and phones over the next 10, 15, 20 years or so. That's my opinion. What do you guys think of that? Do you guys agree with that, disagree with that? Let me know in the comments down below. So, although if they could, seeing that if this company innovates a little bit more, maybe they are able to put like actual Hollywood movies that are in the box office like on your TV. I mean, that would be kind of cool if they do something like that. There's plenty of ways for them to innovate and to catch up to computer stuff, but I'll just kind of leave that to the side. The company as it's constituted right now is doing pretty good. It's growing, so I'm not going to bash them at all. Let's move on here to I saw that there was this article here. So how much credit should Trump get for the bull market? Because the stock market's been up what, like 10% this year? How much has it been up this year? Do I have I thought I had the index open here, but the stock market's been way up this year, as you guys know, with a few really bad days, but for the most part it's been really good. So the S&P's gain of 30% in 2013 shrank to 0 in 2015. I don't know. It's just had a pretty good year. Climbed 22%. Let's see. Let's just type it in here. S&P 500. Oh, I was looking at I was looking at it from 1995 to 2004. Hi, cat. Oh, the cat wants to interrupt this podcast and stream. Get out of here, kitty cat. All right, so how much has the index climbed in the past year? 14%. Okay, so the S&P 500 is up 14% this year. So the market's been doing pretty well for the most part. And how much? I think that I said this in previous videos that I would probably attribute maybe 10% of the stock market gains this year since November, essentially, to Trump, but like that's about it. I would just a little bit, like maybe 1/10 of the growth is from Trump. 90% of it is just from the market itself. That's my opinion on that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. How much of the stock market? Now it's funny because Trump always tweets out all the time like lowest unemployment rate in the past 15, 20 years. Biggest stock market gains in the past, since 1999 or whatever he was saying. But that's like, it's not because of him. His economic changes haven't really come to fruition yet. I mean, his big economic thing is the tax reform, and that hasn't even gone through yet. And so in terms of the stuff that he's actually done, it hasn't really done anything for the economy. It's just that's the way the economy was kind of going. Now, sure, it's kind of inflated, though. It's inflated because they think that a pro-business economy is coming, and so that's why people are investing right now and getting all excited and giving crazy valuations for companies. But in terms of the economic climate, that's not him. That's just kind of the way the economy is going. That's my opinion on it, just from my macroeconomic perspective. But seriously, what do you guys think? How much of an effect do you think Trump's had? Is it 10% like I think? Is it 0%? 50%? How much? Let me know in the comments down below. So let's move on here to, I just want to make this quick announcement here before we move on to a Bitcoin thing, which is really interesting. So Bernie Madoff, if you don't know who he is, you probably heard the name before, but don't really know what he did specifically. So he ran the biggest pyramid scheme, I believe, in history. And so he ran a pyramid scheme where he collected essentially $4 billion without returning any money. And so, the pyramid scheme is you collect people's money and say that you'll invest it for them, and then you'll pay them back X amount return after the past year. And but he wasn't really investing the money, he was keeping it, and he would give people their payments or investments back based on how much money he was able to collect from new customers. And so it's kind of this pyramid scheme, and once you cannot collect enough customers to invest in your company, all of a sudden the people at the top can't get paid, and so the pyramid all comes crashing down. I think that's a good way of explaining it. And so finally, I think that this was 5 years ago, and some of the victims, out of the $4 billion, 772 million are going to be returned to some of the victims. So yeah, this happened on 2009. He pled guilty here on 11 federal felonies. I mean, this guy, he should be in jail for a long time. He was also ordered to forfeit, let's see, 100,000 million, 170 billion. Is that right? Is that number right? That's not right. He didn't collect 170 billion. Maybe that's, I don't know. That's a weird number there. I don't know why that's in the article, but serve 150 years in prison. But this was this was the biggest pyramid scheme of all time. It all came crashing down. And there's a really good documentary called the Madoff Affair, and you should go check that out on YouTube. But it's just nice to update you guys on that stuff, that some of the victims are getting some money back, large amount of money. So anyways, I'm just going to play a very quick clip here. This is from the Goldman Sachs CEO, Blankfein. You've probably seen his picture everywhere on business sites. I'll just play a quick, maybe I won't, maybe a little bit of a clip here of a few seconds here, and he kind of talks about his opinion on Bitcoin and this market and all that.
Is there a safe haven right now? Bitcoin?
No, well, I'm not sure. The safe haven is something that pays no interest, and that's really what's going on here. Is that people, the other set of risk aside from the Fed adjustment, is you wonder where bubble elements in. The equity market could be that kind of a bubble also. Maybe Bitcoin is a kind of a bubble.
Even though you are reportedly considering a Bitcoin trading desk, is that something you're actively working to set up?
I will tell you, I have not. It hasn't crossed my desk to set up a Bitcoin trading desk, but
all right. So anyways, I think that kind of proves what I just kind of want to get across here. So he says, obviously he's not saying that Bitcoin's a bubble. He's not saying the market's a bubble right now, but he's saying maybe it is. It's been pretty hot. He realizes that, just like every other big investor out there has realized, and what I've been talking about for the past few months is, look, it might be a bubble. We don't really know. The application of Bitcoin has not grown in correlation to the amount that the value that Bitcoin has increased. Does that make sense? So if Bitcoin, has gone up whatever 1,000% this year, 100%, I think it's probably 1,000% this year. If it's gone up 1,000% this year, that doesn't mean that the application of Bitcoin has gone up 1,000%. The application may have only gone up 50%. All right, so it's not, and that's usually the sign that there's some sort of bubble forming, that the value of something is going way up without the underlying value going up. Does that make sense? So that's my opinion on that. Now, saying that again, who knows? Bitcoin might not be a bubble. It's not for me. It's not for me. Goldman Sachs CEO, he puts some money into Bitcoin, but not too much. I forget what the number he was saying there, but he invests a certain amount. I remember, I don't want to say it's 10%, but I know Mark Cuban says it's 10%. Actually, let's just move on to Mark Cuban here. The best way to invest money right now. So there's kind of a tip from Mark Cuban. We're also going to move on to one more thing about him. But what's the best way to invest your money right now, according to Mark Cuban? So he says, just kind of tell you what I like to do in the stock market for beginners video, is just kind of put it into safe S&P 500 index funds, right? That's what Tony Robbins tells you to do. And if you hold on to it for 20 years, you're probably going to get a good return in the long run, right? That's how it's been throughout history. Warren Buffett agrees with that as well. So some of the top investors out there say it's good. And then, Mark Cuban also is he plays by a similar investing rule. So if you've watched my stock market for beginners video, which I think 1 million people have watched that or something crazy like that. But in that video, I kind of talk about my 80-20 rule, where if you're a beginner investor, put 80% of your money in something very safe. Put it into like something that pays a decent dividend, 3-4%. Put it into McDonald's or Coca-Cola. That's what I say in the videos, right? Put it into some relatively safe companies. In Canada, those are the bank stocks. Kitty meowing. Get out of here. And then put 20% of your money into stuff that you kind of want to bet on. Put it into Roku, right? Put it into Twitter. Put it into Snapchat. Put it into something where it's a volatile company, like a tech company, where they may go up or way down. And so Mark Cuban kind of agrees with that. He says, if you want to get risky, put 10% of your investment portfolio in Bitcoin or Ethereum. You might see a really good return, like a lot of people had this year. A lot of people, think about this. For Bitcoin and Ethereum, I like to admit when I'm wrong, right? And so when I started talking about Bitcoin earlier this year, I think it was at about $3,000 it was roughly worth, and then it dropped down to about 2,400, 2,200, then it went way back up. But if you had not listened to me for Bitcoin and you invested in it, did the opposite of what I was saying I was doing, and then you would have doubled your money. You would have doubled your money by now on Bitcoin if you were to sell it today. So it's just again, I'm not a financial advisor. I just kind of say what I think, and I do know more than the average person, I would assume, because I kind of pay attention to the markets. But yeah, Bitcoin, just for me, it's not for me, right? And Mark Cuban, yeah, if you want to put 10% in Bitcoin, sure, 20% in Bitcoin, sure. Now, as you become a better investor, maybe instead of going 90% safe, 10% risky, and then maybe you get better and then you go to the 80-20, maybe then you go to 70-30. Like I do about 70-30 right now, 70% in safe stuff, 30% in risky stuff. And it all depends, like, and how much money are you willing to lose? If you're someone who needs your investment and needs all of that money, put it all in safe stuff. If you are someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, just wants to save that money, yeah, all in safe stuff. But if you're someone who has a very good income, lots of money to burn, lots of savings, then you can put more in risky stuff, because it's like, why not? You're going to have money to survive anyways, and you have a ton of savings anyways. Put some more money. Maybe you go 60-40 if you want to really play risky, or 50-50. I mean, it's totally up to you. I mean, when I started investing in the stock market, I mean, I played 90-10 rule, and then I went to 80-20, and then I kind of went to 70-30. And I mean, it's all up to your financial position and your confidence. So just, you know, what do you guys do? How much do you like to invest in safe stuff? How much in risky stuff? Because the worst thing you can do is put it all in one thing, put it all in Bitcoin, put it all in, even putting it all in like McDonald's. That's not exactly safe either. Just diversity is usually a pretty good thing when you're investing for the long term. So Mark Cuban, as I've been talking about for 1 year, and it's almost official, but I've been talking about this on Twitter and in my videos since like December. Mark Cuban now kind of is saying. So I've noticed this because Kevin O'Leary announced that he was going to run for prime minister last year, and he did. And he would have been the conservative, or sorry, Kevin O'Leary was planning on running for prime minister in the next election, which is in 2 years, I think, or next year. And he did run, and he got the vote for his party in all of the provinces except for Quebec, where he got demolished because he didn't speak French. And so he had to bow out here, but he actually won in a lot of the polls. It's just he got killed in Quebec because he's not a French speaker. So yeah, but the reason why I said Mark Cuban was going to run was because he was following the same trends as Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary started talking a little bit about politics a little bit more, started getting a little less involved in business, more on social media. Mark Cuban, I remember last year he started ripping Trump 24/7. Anyone remember that? He still does it. He rips the Trump family too. Donald Jr. he just tweeted at. And so if Mark Cuban runs, he said he's going to run as an independent. And what are my thoughts on Mark Cuban? So people think of Mark Cuban as a kind of a, you know, he's a dick, I guess people think, and he's kind of, you know, really strong personality, which he is. I think of his policies as a really good mix of pro-business and family kind of valued, I guess, in a sense. And he's thinking more for the future. He's, you know, a tech guy. He's a good investor. He's essentially a lot of the stuff that, and he's obviously his own. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need donations. Doesn't need to play. He wants the money out of politics. He has a lot of the positives that people like in Donald Trump, minus the ego. I guess that goes with it. Because if you talk to Mark Cuban, the ego does not. I mean, sure, he knows that he's rich. He knows that he's intelligent and all that stuff. He's very confident, but he doesn't have the big ego. He doesn't have the, you know, I'm going to be the best president of all time kind of, you know, talk that Donald Trump does. And I don't know. I think that he could be a good president. Obviously, I'm not American, so I can't vote. You really got to get out of here, cat. You really got to get out of here. I don't know why the cat's meowing. He hasn't done that. But I think that Mark Cuban could be a good president. I'm not American, so I can't vote. Would I vote for him? Probably, because he's one of my business idols if I were American, and I do know a lot of his policies are going to be very good for small business. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think if he actually runs? Let me know in the comments down below too. Would you vote for him? Do you think that he's a dick? Yeah, but like, I don't think that, just based on the fact that Donald Trump got in this time, I don't think that they're going to vote in another billionaire businessman, even if he's completely different. The fact that Mark Cuban is a billionaire businessman and kind of just has that similar trait about him, that business trait about him. That's why I think that a lot of the kind of centrist left people that voted for Donald Trump wouldn't vote for Mark Cuban. They're like, oh, I voted for Donald Trump and he hasn't done any of the changes that I wanted him to. So that's my opinion on all that. Let me know what you guys think. Let's move on to Facebook here. Facebook expands its marketplace section with housing rentals. So Facebook has this marketplace thing where you can sell stuff on there. I have to keep an eye on this stuff for my marketplace. I've been talking about this for so long. I have to redo some of the stuff on the site because I'm going to make it a lot more simple to use. specifically with checkouts and things along those lines and setting up accounts. But like I did another full test run today of signing up and, you know, buying something and posting something, and it literally, if you want to post something, it takes a few minutes. If you want to sell a product, it's a few minutes and you're good to go. And I just need to kind of change some things to make it a little bit more simple, because it's a tiny bit confusing at this current second, I realized after going through it again. But again, I tested it with my credit cards and everything's good. People get paid. And yeah, anyways, Facebook Marketplace though is they're expanding it for housing rentals, trying to take away some of the market share from like Kijiji and Craigslist. But here's the deal with Facebook is that the fact that it's connected to your social media, I mean, I agree it's going to be a net positive for Facebook. It's going to be pretty big for Facebook. However, I don't want my social media connected to stuff I buy. Does that make sense? Like, I don't, even just the fact that I could be messaging my friend and then buy something from there, and the fact that it's going to be connected to my account some way, I mean, that's a little bit weird for me. So I don't think it's obviously going to be as big as Amazon or anything, but it'll probably be pretty big going into the future here. Apparently it's grown 3 times in search volume since January, so it'll be big. It's just, for the current moment, I think that there's a little bit of hesitation from its users. That's my perspective. Let's move on to Uber. I need to close this. Uber is announcing when it's IPOing, and let's just air you about 7 seconds here.
That the next step, where the company has been relatively explicit, that the next step is an IPO eventually.
2019 is the target.
2019 is the target. You heard it right. That is the CEO of Uber. I can't pronounce his last name. It's Dara Khosrowshahi. Dara Khosrowshahi. I'll go with that. And yeah, so aiming for 2019. I think we kind of have a semi-official date. They're aiming for 2019. Some of the hesitations are that they want it to be a little bit more profitable by the time that they do IPO. It's starting to work though. Uber's not profitable at this current second, but it is in some areas. Like in some, they didn't announce any specific date or specific areas, but they said that, look, it's working. All right, the math is working out here. We're going to aim for 2019, maybe 2020. And they're getting pressured from their big investor, SoftBank, who invested $3.5 billion in Uber. That's one of the reasons why they're going to IPO. Now, they're from Saudi Arabia, I believe, here, and they just want a return on investment. They invested $3.5 billion. They're probably going to get a 2 or 3 times return on it, minimum. Uber's currently valued at 60 billion, 70 billion, most likely. And and so they invested that, 2 years ago? Somewhere around there, so it's probably doubled since then. But yeah, so Uber IPO 2019, watch out for that. One of the last things I want to talk about here before we move on to 2 more stocks is this title here. It takes half of America to match the wealth of these 3 billionaires. And those billionaires are Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and who's the last one here? Is it Zucks? Who is it here? Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg's climbing up there though. But Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, their wealth is at about 90 billion. Warren Buffett's around 80, I think. And so it takes about 150, 160 million Americans to match the wealth of these 3 billionaires. I mean, that kind of, my opinion on this is, like, people think that when you have a $90 billion net worth, that you have $90 billion in the bank, and that's just not true, right? I've talked about this so much. Like, if you have $90 billion net worth, it's not in the bank, right? I heard a quote from, oh my God, who was it? Oh, you know what? No. It wasn't. It was from a multi-millionaire, right? It was from a guy on a Canadian. Oh, what's his name? His name's Bruce Croxton. That's right. I think it was him that said this, but like. You'd be surprised at the amount of multimillionaires that have less than $100,000 in the bank. I think that it was a quote somewhere along those lines. I was watching the show The Disruptors, which is good for anyone who wants to watch a cool tech show, tech startup show that has to do with entrepreneurship and business. It's on every Thursday. But yeah, he said, like, look, he's a multimillionaire. He started one big company in Canada and sold it. But like, you'd be surprised, you know, he doesn't have $10 million in the bank. He has hundreds of thousands or less than 100,000. Like, all of your net worth is usually tied up in your company or in real estate or in some other investment field. And so, you know, Bill Gates, he's worth $90 billion. I'm guessing because he might have $1 billion in the bank, but he doesn't have 90, right? Jeff Bezos, same thing. Jeff Bezos actually sells $1 billion worth of his Amazon stock every year to invest it into Blue Origin. And yeah, so he might have $1 billion in the bank, but he doesn't have 90, right? So that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, what are you supposed to do? Sell your entire company so that you can redistribute it to everyone at the bottom? Is that the deal? Or redistribute it to other investment banks? Like, what are you supposed to do? What are you gonna, like, what people think is that, like, why don't you just give 87 billion of that 90 billion to a bunch of poor people? Well, for that, you'd have to sell your stake in your company, which is something that no one wants to do. Especially if you're still working there, like Jeff Bezos, like Mark Zuckerberg, like Warren Buffett. Bill Gates is a little bit more of a consultant now. So that's why he's actually giving away most of his money at this current second, and he's still the richest person in the world. But is there a lot of inequality? Yes. Is it bad? I mean, it's getting worse. I think that when you invent Microsoft, and that's in 1 billion computers in the world, you're probably supposed to be the richest person in the world. I mean, if you invent Amazon, like, you should be up there. You should be worth billions of dollars. It's just unfortunate that like a lot of companies like Apple too, one of the parts of the problem is that when these companies make a bunch of money and they have it in cash and they have the profits, a lot of them just store it and they don't reinvest it in the economy. It kind of kills trickle down in a lot of the sense. Like Apple storing almost $300 billion in overseas banks. Like, that's not good for the economy. That's not good for the middle class. It's just sitting in a bank somewhere, or several banks. So that's my opinion. You know, I wouldn't blame Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos for inequality. I mean, they've made really cool products that people like, and they probably deserve to be worth all this money. It's unfortunate that's the way the economy is. And that's my opinion on that. That's my opinion, because the fact that they could have a $90 billion net worth and most Americans have a net worth of several $1,000s, and people my age have a negative net worth if you include debt. So, I mean, I understand it. Let's move on to Snapchat here. We talked too much about that. Snapchat, just because they had a bad day yesterday, they were down 15% yesterday. They fell. I know they're 4.2% today. Let's try and update this here. 4.1% today. So they continued falling today, making their total fall, looks like it plateaued. Their total fall at about 19% in the past couple days after their earnings report. So not very good whatsoever. Bobby Murphy's the other founder, right? And Square, I want to talk about Square a little bit here because, I mean, I kind of talked about them once in a video and I didn't really know what they did specifically, but Square is a company they're essentially like Stripe and PayPal, except for your phone. And it started by the guy who started Twitter, and I did not know this. I did not know that Jack Dorsey started Square. Or maybe I did, I just forgot. And I don't know, Square is a company, I mean, I think that this is another cool technology that, I mean, it's like Stripe and it's like PayPal. It's like, I mean, actually I saw this article recently that online or you know, those mobile payment gateways, online payment gateways like Stripe, like PayPal, like Square, those have been some of the best performing stocks this entire year. I think I read that. Yeah, because look at this. In the past year, Square is up 208%. Okay, so like that's the article I read. So they've been some of the best performing stocks this year. Anyways, this video is way too long already. I thought it would be short, but it's not. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. You can check out my my stock market program if you want to learn how to set up your account. You can check out the Wealth Accelerator if you want to learn how to you know, start a business. If you get that, there's like 14 to 16 hours of content on there with all that stuff. You can let me know in the comments down below, or sorry, check that out in the description box down below. So thank you very much for watching, beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.